What's going on, guys? Danimal here, and I hope you are having a good evening, afternoon, morning, whatever you're doing today. Now, we have a new little series on the go where I'm going to be building max level weapon builds for PvP combat in probably all situations. Now, these are the builds that I want to be using myself when I'm looking through the calculator. Like everyone else, I've been sat in the queue for hours and hours, so I was just looking at the talent trees for all of the weapons, and I was building out what I think would be good for PvP and how they would all synergize maybe together if I was to use each one with another slot. As always, if you like the content, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, stay healthy, stay happy, and have a great day. Roll it. Firstly, the abilities. We'll be using Vault Kick, we'll be using Sweep, and we'll be using Javelin in this build. Yes, it sounds like a new triathlon at the Olympics, but we're gonna roll with it. For the accompanying talent points for these abilities, we'll be using Relentless Blows for the 20% damage buff on targets below 50% health. We'll be using Continuous Motion for the cooldowns on the abilities of your spear. The cooldown reduction is always something that will really help in these builds. The Sweep will also be maxing this out by getting the Grip from Tenacious Sweep, so we can't be interrupted with attacks, and for getting Coup de Grace for our big damage ability. Now, this is going to be one of the main attacks in this build. It's going to give you massive execute potential. And lastly, Javelin. We're only going to put the first point into Javelin where we can get Forceful Impact to get an extra knockdown for gap closing and interrupts, completing our ability lowdown for the Spear. Now for the filler talents that will really bring this build together. These are the gravy to your roast dinner. Starting with the first line, we have Deadly Reach for the 10% critical chance on the targets that are 3 meters away. This will buff your Javelin, this will buff your higher ranged attacks or your heavy attacks. As we're going to be using a lot of light attacks in this build, Precise Jabs will give you the extra 5% crit on your light attacks. Next we have Refreshing Jabs, which will reduce all the cooldowns by 10% on the second hit of your light attack chain, giving us some more CDR in this build. For the second row of talents in both trees, we have Crippling Jab. The last hit on the light attack chain applies a 30% slow on targets below 30% health. This is good for clutching and securing kills, and this just adds the additional pressure on the execute phase for when we get them down to low health. The next one on this row is Finishing Blows. 15% damage against targets with less than 30% health. This again buffs all of your damage in those low health brackets, giving you more execute potential. The third row of talents going across. Invigorating Crits, restoring 20 stamina on critical hits. We're going to be critting a lot. Stamina is your defensive cooldown, and we're going to be using this a lot. And having all the crits in this high dex, high crit build, you will be restoring stamina quite a bit during your attacking phases. Merciless Strength, 20% damage against knockdown targets. This is going to prove very useful with the Sweep knockdown and the Javelin knockdown, especially with Coup de Grace in those execute phases. This is really the bread and butter of the build, and it will be doing massive chunks of damage, especially sub 30% health. The next talent point I'm using is Unerring Precision, 20% damage against targets with active grit. This was more of a filler talent. It wasn't the most amazing choice to have, but it was to get down to the later stages of this talent tree. Now, grit's going to be something that's sought after, and you're going to come across it quite a bit. So if you see something with grit and you do hit the attack, you've got an extra 20% damage against them if you're going to hit them anyway. So it's always quite nice. Now to the fourth row, there's only one talent point here, and that is Aggressive Maneuvers. The first successful hit with an ability within 2 seconds of dodging reduces all spear cooldowns by 20%. Adding more CDR to this build is going to bring these cooldowns off extremely quickly, especially with the Vault Kick. That's going to bring your cooldowns off very quickly, so you can continue CCing, you can continue putting out that damage, and more Coup de Grace, the better. Learning to play around Aggressive Maneuvers can really take your cooldowns down really far, and you can become an absolute monster. Now, the fifth row, there wasn't as much choice. We're not using Exacerbating Crits because we don't put our own spear debuffs on the target, so we are definitely going to have to go with Exposed Wounds. Now, this is good because you'll get a 15% chance to crit against targets that are bleeding. Now, targets that are bleeding could be any bleed that is on the target. Now, say it could be your own if you're using the bow or the rapier, or it could be an ally or an enemy that's put a bleed onto the target, and then you can make use of that juicy crit. And then the last point in this row is for Exploited Weakness. You get 10% damage per debuff on the target to a maximum of 30%. So if you manage to get that massive damage increase, that's just going to buff the entire build, especially during execute phases. So the two methods of play that I would use this for is if you wanted to use it as like your main sort of damage weapon, then just whittle them down at the beginning. As soon as you see them get to 50% or below health, get that Vault Kick in, get that Sweeping, get that Coup de Grace in, and they should get down to around about 30% health by that time. If not, you might want to weave a Javelin in there, or if they try to escape, you want to chuck a Javelin in there and pin them down one more time. My suggestion would probably be to sweep then javelin, so you can get a double CC on them. You could effectively triple CC them if you catch them at the right moment. You could couple that if you wanted to use it with your main hand with like a bow, so you can hit out some attacks with your bow. You can use the bleed on your bow. You could even use the poison on the bow. Create some distance, create some range, get some poke damage, and then pull off one of those combos. I'd maybe then, if I was using the bow, I'd probably go for Vault Kick into Javelin into Sweep Coup de Grace sub 50% to get that combo off to do a massive chunk of damage, and hopefully the Coup de Grace will hit the 30% threshold. And then if they try and run away and they're not dead, and they do dodge away, you can shoot them with the bow and finish them off. My main choice would probably be with the Rapier. I would use a bleed heavy spec and a lot of high DPS single target damage so that I can start off the battle with that weapon. I can get in there, I can slice and dice, hit my bleeds up, do a lot of damage, force some of the stamina, force some of the blocking so that they can't really block the next attacks that are to come, switch over to my spear and then use Vault Kick into leg sweep and then finish them off with a javelin if I have to at the end of it, because they probably will get some stamina back and try and escape. But you can pin them down again, and then obviously you can use the spear to keep the pressure on them with those crits and keep them sub 50%, and then use the combos again, and eventually you'll finish them off by stabbing Coup de Grace right into their butthole. Right, so how would I progress this as I leveled to get to this end game build? The first thing I'd use is Javelin. I'd then move into Forcible Impact and Sweep. The first 3 levels are rather easy to get. I'd then move into Tenacious Sweep and Coup de Grace, pick up Merciless Strength after that one. I'd then move over to the Impaler tree. I'd pick up Refreshing Jabs. I'd pick up Finishing Blows, Vault Kick, fill out Vault Kick. Then we're going to go for Aggressive Maneuvers, Exposed Wounds. I'll pick up the Precise Jabs after that, Crippling Jabs, Unerring Precision, and then hit into Exploited Weakness there. And then you can fill the last 2 points in Deadly Reach and then Invigorating Crits. And there we go, guys. That is the Quickfire Spear build. I will be releasing a few extra ones over the coming weeks, so keep an eye out for those. Hit the notifications so you can find out when they get released. And as always, have a good morning, have a good evening, have a good afternoon. Stay healthy, stay happy, and enjoy New World as much as I am. I'll see you in the next one.